Hey, Mr. Scott, it's Lieutenant Merchant with the Sheriff's Office.
How are you doing today?
Not too bad. What can I do for you?
Which issue are you calling me about?
I just have a forwarded email from Captain Watkins.
So I actually sent a letter to the state attorney and the state reps and state senators, and I think with Captain Watkins, I was just requesting more info, and then they were starting an investigation as to what was going on.
Who was starting an investigation?
I assumed it was either the state attorney or somebody along those lines.
Okay.
So the issue I have is on the night of November 9th when I was taken into custody. So Lieutenant Rader did a CHR for the FBI that said I was a convicted felon. My issue and concern with that is that on the 12th of November of 2022, there was a pretrial risk assessment done on me by Okaloosa County that said I had no prior adult felony convictions. A pretrial risk assessment was done for the arrest of November 9th of this year, and that risk assessment also stated that I had no prior adult felonies. So I reached out to Monroe County, and they let me know that that criminal history record was updated on November 6th of 2009. So I guess my biggest concern is if the county had information available in 2022 and in 2023 that I was not a convicted felon, why was I taken into custody for being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm? Because I stated to Lieutenant Rader that adjudication, Agatha, I need you to hold on, baby girl, I'm talking. And I stated that the charge was adjudication withheld, and he assured me I was wrong. So I have concerns that he went with an antiquated record that was incorrect from 2005, but I'm wondering how much effort he put in to confirm that I was not a convicted felon, since the county had records that showed that.
Well, we have one way of checking criminal history, and that's through NCIC, FCIC. And I've read... Excuse me?
And my concern with that is, but the county did a background check on me before a bond in 2022 that said I had no prior adult felony convictions.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I know that standard operating procedure is to run a criminal history through NCIC, FCIC, and I'm looking in the folder now because I saw it before and read it, and it showed that you were a convicted felon, and it was ran the night of that encounter, I think the 9th.
Yep.
I can't find it now, but that's how we do criminal history checks.
So my concern is, my Second Amendment and Fourth Amendment rights were violated because I, in fact, was not a convicted felon. And with me stating that I was not, what effort did the lieutenant put into confirming that?
Yeah, I don't know what effort he put into that, but...
That is a big question for me.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you're aware, this actually caused me to lose my job and has utterly destroyed my life. And it looks like some things don't make sense to me. Because I was stopped in 2009 when they were doing a an FTA warrant on a roommate. Mm-hmm. And when the deputy in Monroe County ran my name, he told me I was a convicted felon and had failed to register. I explained to him that I was not, and instead of arresting me, he gave me a notice to appear. Mm-hmm. And when I went in front of the judge asked me to go to the clerk of the court downstairs and get him a copy of everything. And the clerk said, "Oh, it was misfiled. Here you go." And then handed me the paperwork showing that I was not, in fact, a convicted felon. So that's the thing, is like this. The state of Florida has known for 13 years that I wasn't a convicted felon. that's why I don't, and the county had records as of November of 2022 that I'm not a convicted felon.
Okay, like I said earlier, standing operating procedure is FCIC and NCIC. That's what we determine criminal history from. We don't check county records or clerk's office.
Well, and this is where I'm concerned with the procedures involved. So there's one system in place, but with conflicting data available, without that being checked, I feel like my rights were not supported by law enforcement.
Well, we were going off of the information that was provided to us. We're not going to take your word for it. We're not going to take...
And my question with that is, why would my word not be taken?
Because we get lied to every day.
But I was not lying, and that's my concern.
Yeah, but how do we know that? If we took everybody's testimony at face value, nothing would get accomplished. We get lied to every day.
And I apologize that you have to go through that. I know it's frustrating. I would assume about 50 to 75% of my customers look me in the eye and lie to me on a regular basis. But not all of them do.
Okay.
And I feel like I was blanketed in with that.
Well, we have a set way of doing things. We have a standard operating procedure, and part of the procedure is not taking the suspect's word at face value.
And now, who would I need to contact about possibly getting a modification made to the standing operating procedure?
You're not going to be able to. I mean, that is what difference would you change? How would you suggest that we go about verifying someone's criminal history?
Well, there's the FDLE database.
Where do you think they get their information from?
There's the county's own records.
Where do you think they get their information from?
But the county had the information that I wasn't a convicted felon.
Okay.
So, and additionally, I have to pass, well, prior to my losing my job because of this, every year I had to pass a level 2 background check to maintain my employment.
Okay, but we don't have access to that.
And that is something that really concerns me because, people are suffering through a failure of the system, in my opinion.
I can fully understand everything you're saying, and I'm empathetic that you lost your job, but this is the way that all law enforcement conducts business, is NCIC, FCIC for any criminal records.
Well, and that's where the confusion's coming in for me because, in 2009, I was just given a notice to appear, and then in 2016, Kansas City, Missouri Police Department returned a firearm to me that they had taken possession of after performing a background check. So if Kansas City, Missouri Police Department was able to verify I wasn't a convicted felon, with presumably you're telling me the same system that
I don't put words in my mouth. I don't know what Kansas City, Missouri does or any other state.
I'm sorry. I thought you said all law enforcement, so I assumed it was blanketed across the country.
Go ahead.
Yep. Hold on just a second. I'm going down the creek and I lose signal for about 15 seconds. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I'm going down Old River Road. There's a couple of spots where there's no signal. Yeah. So I'm not sure what we can do moving forward because, like I said, I don't feel like the system that's in place took my rights into account at all, and I mean that's a major concern for me.
Like I said, what would you suggest that we do instead of using NCIC, FCIC? Because at 3 o'clock in the morning on a traffic stop on the side of Highway 85, that is the only database that's going to be available to us.
Then perhaps another database needs to be implemented and developed that would allow more dynamic access to the accurate and correct information.
All right. Well, that's going to be above the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. That's
Who
going
would be in charge of that?
I would say FDLE or the Attorney General's office. I mean, you're more than welcome to talk to our Office of Professional Standards and talk to them about changing the procedure.
And is that based in Okaloosa County?
Yeah, that's the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, Office of Professional Standards.
Right. Is there their number on the website?
You can just call 850-651-7410. Or yeah, it should be on the website.
Right. So, and then
I would put you through dispatch, but I don't know if they would transfer that call.
Right. And then the other issue, separate from the 9th, is last Friday I went to the Sheriff's Office here in Crestview on Highway 90 and 85, or James Lee and 85.
Uh-huh.
And I got to speak to a Sergeant Robinson, I believe his name was.
Okay.
The night of the 9th, DCF investigator made a phone call stating that there was a safety plan in place and there was a domestic violence incident occurring and that I was armed if he needed it dispatched. So my concern is I got to speak with, I thought it was Deputy Parker the night of the 9th, and he said the reason that he would be unable to perform a civil standby duty is that the DCF investigator never provided me a copy of the safety plan. And without being provided a copy of the safety plan for me to go to the courthouse and have a judge issue a civil standby order, it was wholly unenforceable. So my concern is that a DCF investigator contacted law enforcement stating there was a safety plan in place and it had been violated. I never received a copy of that safety plan. I requested a copy from Deputy Peak on November 8th, verbally, and there's body cam footage to confirm that. On that same body cam footage, you'll see me ask B. Batchelor, the DCF investigator, for a copy of the safety plan. And then on the morning and afternoon of November 9th, I requested a copy of the safety plan from B. Batchelor, additionally. And then verbally, I requested it over the phone at approximately 9:45 a.m. So I was never provided a copy of the safety plan. So is my understanding, if it's unenforceable because I was never provided a copy, when she contacted law enforcement and said there was a safety plan in place and she needed units dispatched, she was actually making a false statement to law enforcement. I think it's 837.05 criminal statute, because she had never provided me a copy of the safety plan. And DCF's guidelines are that they're unenforceable until a copy has been provided to all parties involved. So I know it's a technicality, but my life's been completely destroyed based on this. And I feel like, a technicality where you're breaking the law is still breaking the law, regardless of her position with the state. Now, Sergeant Robinson told me I lied to him. He told me I was out on bond and that I was a convicted felon. He tried to dismiss me repeatedly through my interaction with him. And I don't feel like he really took me seriously or was willing to listen to anything I had to say in regards to the situation. I'm not sure if that's also a standard operating procedure, but I don't feel like that protected or served me in any manner. If I've got evidence of a crime, regardless of his opinion of the crime, he should have been willing to make a police report and or take the evidence into police custody.
What crime did you have?
False information to law enforcement
And what was the false information to law enforcement?
She stated there was a safety plan in place, and I was in violation of it.
Was there a safety plan in place?
No, because she never gave me a copy of it.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you if there was a safety plan in place.
There was one from November 8th.
Okay, so she did not violate the law and provide false information if there was a safety plan in place.
But I never received a copy of the safety plan.
Okay, that has nothing to do with us. That's Department of Children and Families.
Well, yeah, they're doing their investigation of it too. I don't understand how somebody, operating as an official within the state of Florida, is able to make statements that aren't supported by their own actions.
What do you mean?
Well, so if DCF is telling me, and a deputy is telling me, that a safety plan is unenforceable until both parties have received copies, if neither party has received copies, how would she be within her rights to make the statement that there's a safety plan in place?
Because there was a safety plan in place. It doesn't matter. That's just like if someone's getting an injunction and we have the junction, but it hasn't been served, there's still an injunction. We just can't enforce it because it hasn't been served. Does that make sense?
You guys, but there was a law enforcement response to enforce the safety plan.
I don't know about that. I'd have to look into that. We have to respond.
If you could, I would appreciate it.
We have to respond to calls when we get dispatched, regardless of whether there's a safety plan in place or there's,
I actually made a video of my entire...
Why do you keep interrupting me? I'm trying to explain things so you can understand them, but you keep talking over me and interrupting me.
I apologize. My reception's spotty, and there was a period of silence. I thought you were done. Please continue.
So we have to respond. We can't arbitrarily say we're not going to go. So that's why a deputy showed up. And from what you're telling me, it sounds like he took the appropriate action, which was no action, because he couldn't enforce the safety plan. Correct?
Yeah, the deputy, I thought it was Parker, but I was told that there's not a deputy by that name.
Correct. So I hear what you're saying, that you think that she violated the law by providing false information, but you're splitting hairs. There was still a safety plan in place. You just hadn't received a copy of it or notice of it, or however you want to put it. But you're splitting hairs like you're, I don't know, it's weird to me. There was still a safety plan in place. She didn't provide false information.
Well, and for me, when the safety plan I signed was supposed to be for 24 hours.
Okay.
And then she communicated me at 9 a.m. the morning of November 9th that the safety plan was changing and that she would provide me a copy, and then neglected to.
Okay, again, you're going to have to take that up with DCF. I can't do anything about that. You there? Can you hear me?
And to touch base, I just want to go with what you said about an injunction. So, like, if somebody goes and files a protective injunction, and the temporary injunction is there.
See, you're changing information. There's still an injunction there. It may be temporary.
Well, no, but I mean, when it's first filed, before you go in front of the judge, you get the actual injunction in place.
Yeah.
And that period when it's initially filed, after the judges agree to the temporary before it's been served, is it enforceable?
The temporary one's enforceable.
Prior to being served?
You didn't say that. You said there was a temporary injunction in place.
And I think I'm breaking up too because of where I'm at. What I was asking was, is in the period of time after the temporary injunction is signed, but before it is served to the respondent in the injunction?
You cannot enforce an injunction unless it's been served upon both parties.
And that's where I'm kind of coming into play with it, because neither party was served with the safety plan.
Okay, that has nothing to do with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. That is a Department of Children and Families investigation to look into. But my point is you're trying to say she provided false information. She didn't provide false information because there was a safety plan. It just hadn't been served.
Now, and then additionally with that, the deputy I spoke with on the night of the night advised me to record my entire interaction at the home, just to make sure there wasn't anything, and I did that.
Okay.
So I have concerns that she stated there was a domestic violence incident occurring.
Okay.
Because I'm on video when that didn't happen.
Why did she call law enforcement?
My spouse reached out to her. B. Bachelor instructed my spouse to contact her immediately if I returned to the home at any time for any reason.
Okay.
And he called her and let her know that I'd returned to the home, and then she contacted y'all.
Okay. Look, I really think you're trying to split hairs. I mean, was there... what's your definition of a domestic violence situation? I think you're trying to say that there was no violent encounter or there was no violence. Everything was calm.
There wasn't. We'd been cohabitating for 3 months.
Okay.
And like going shopping and the baseball games with the kids. And that's why...
if I don't know what was told to that DCF investigator, do you know what your wife told her?
Nope, and there's not 911 calls logs like with the DCF phone call.
Okay.
I'll be in there in just a second, baby girl.
Again, I just feel like we're splitting hairs on the definition of domestic encounter or domestic issue.
Yeah, because all I did was walk into the house, load up a duffel bag, grab my insulin and my mini fridge, and leave.
Okay.
While my
maybe
kids are crying,
DCF received information that there was an argument.
And that's something where that's beyond my investigative capabilities. But I think the sheriff's office can handle it.
We're not going to get involved in that. There was no complaint from your wife or ex-wife, whatever she is, and a deputy responded out there, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did they investigate it?
I have no idea. There's the only thing I have. No, Deputy DeWitt said that he spoke to somebody that was at the home and that there was no domestic violence incident.
Okay. So it was investigated, and there was no violation of state statute, correct?
Nope.
Okay. Again,
but
we're splitting hairs on interpretation of domestic violence incident. You're trying to get somebody in trouble on technicality stuff.
So for perspective, she returned the following Friday to attempt to intimidate and coerce me. So
who did?
B. Bachelor.
Again, you need to take that up with the Department of Children and Families.
So Department of Children and Families told me that they are doing their own investigation about it. But as far as the criminal stuff, that would be the responsibility of the sheriff's office.
How did she intimidate you and threaten you?
Oh, well, she came out here to ask me if I was okay with a safety plan that didn't involve my children being removed from my home, and I said I was. She asked me if there was anything else that I would like to discuss, and I told her, no, at this point, everything from the night of the night, I'm dealing with your supervisor, Chris Hatch. At which point she stated something to the effect of, I don't know where you think your complaint's gonna go, but I can assure you, it's probably not gonna go the way you think. We have a team of lawyers to handle this stuff.
Yeah, based on what you're telling me, I see no violation of criminal statute.
No, and like that wasn't that was a criminal. That's just DCF policy. And I know that it's a technicality, but my issue is I was wrongfully arrested. I was tortured in a jail, and I feel like a DCF agent made false statements to law enforcement to trigger this whole chain of events.
Okay.
And even if it is a technicality, she technically broke the law in my mind. And that's my concern. So even if it's just a technicality, she technically broke the law.
She did not break the law.
And that's something where, like, has an investigation been done over the 911 call or something? Because that's more than anything else, I want somebody to look into this. Because everyone's just telling me, oh, no, it's fine. They do this all the time. And that just doesn't seem right.
About, what do you mean with the 911 call?
Well, like, the 911 call she made, have her statements been investigated to ensure that they were not false?
What the statements that
Steve Batchelor made on the night of November 9th when she contacted 911 dispatch.
saying that there was a safety plan in place?
Yeah, it was like a 4-minute phone call.
I'm failing to see your point on this.
Well, I mean, so you say it's like I'm splitting hairs trying to get somebody in trouble for a technicality, but it is a technicality. I believe it's a technicality.
She said there was a safety plan in place. You say there wasn't.
Yes.
But there was a safety plan in place. It just hadn't been served on you.
Yes.
Or you hadn't been provided a copy. That's not providing false information. Providing false information is that you're on scene and you're holding your ex-wife hostage. That's providing false information because that didn't happen. Or you're threatening people with a firearm. That's false information, not the technicality of there's a safety plan in place, oh, but there isn't because he hasn't been served.
This sounds really smart, Alex, but they got Capone for tax evasion. None of the other horrible stuff he did.
Mr. Scott, seriously? That's a law violation. That is a federal law violation, and you're comparing apples to oranges.
Well, no, I'm using it as in my mind, a simile for,
It's not even similar. Mr. Scott, I would love to help you. I would bend over backwards to help you if there was violation of Florida statute. I think it's an interpretation on your part that there was, but in all actuality, there wasn't. You've made a complaint to the Department of Children and Families. Let them do their investigation and look into it. As far as the arrest for being a convicted felon, like I said, we go off of the information that is provided to us. If FCIC, NCIC is not up to date for whatever reason, the printout showed that you were a convicted felon. It's not an unlawful arrest. There was no conspiracy to ruin your life.
No, it was just how it happened. And again, if it wasn't an unlawful arrest, I feel like the standard operating procedures are geared not to fully support the rights of the citizens.
Well, it's like I said, you're more than welcome to contact our Office of Professional Standards and make all the suggestions that you can come up with of how to verify someone's criminal history. You can contact the state to see if they can put some other things in place, some other databases. But that's what we use, and that's what was showing. I read it when your original email came in. I forget how it got on my desk or how I got included in it, but I went back and looked at the criminal history and read it, and it was there. And I forwarded that information to Captain Watkins and Records Division, and
that's where, okay. Was this early on, like the 11th or the 13th, somewhere around there?
yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I sent him the digital certified copies of the original case disposition that showed I wasn't convicted, so he could release my weapon.
Yep, and that was rectified and corrected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I understand what you're saying, and I know that you're doing your best. I'm very frustrated because I feel like
I understand you're frustrated, man, and I'm sorry that you're frustrated, but
well, I mean, it's not your fault. It's just that it's other people, and you got to be the representative.
and please believe me, I would do anything I could to help you if there was a violation of Florida statute or Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office policy. Have you filled out a complaint form for any of your grievances?
All I've done is send the letter explaining everything to the state attorney and the governor.
But you haven't filled out a complaint form with us.
No. I emailed Captain Watkins a copy of the letter. He said he'd get back to me next week when he returned.
Yeah. Would you like me to email you a complaint form?
Yeah, if you could, that would be great. I didn't even know there was one.
Give me a good email address.
All right, I'm going to do it from just November, Kilo, Charlie.
Hold on. November, Kilo, Charlie.
Hotel, Victor, Alpha, Charlie. Tango, Echo, Charlie, Hotel.
Tango, Echo, Charlie, Hotel.
315@gmail.com. It's NKC HVAC Tech 315.
NKC HVAC Tech 315@gmail.com.
Yeah, it sounded great when I came up with it, and I had to start telling people what it was.
Yeah, wow, that's a mouthful. What's 315?
It's the first three of my social.
Oh, okay.
I kept trying to put in different number combinations, and there were apparently so many NKC HVAC techs, I couldn't think of one I'd remember.
I didn't know if that was area code, because that's the area code where I'm from.
No, it's 816 is in Missouri.
Okay. I'll send that to you. Just, it's self-explanatory. You can put your narrative in there. And you've got my phone number, right?
I've got it as 259-0048.
Yes, sir. Call me after you fill it out. Don't sign it because I need to swear you to it. And I'll meet up with you, swear you to it, and then we'll look at any policy violations or bad practices or whatever.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to be difficult. And
I know you're frustrated, man, but we've got to look at this from all perspectives, and interpretation of Florida statute, I think, is what we're dealing with. All right.
You have a great day. I will try and get that complaint form done tonight. If anything, it'll be tomorrow or Monday. I'll reach out to you.
Okay, man. Take care.
You have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Bye.